Minnesota is officially the United State of China, and today I'm gonna prove it, revealing that all the protests in the Twin Cities are specifically for one purpose: to cover up one of the biggest international fraud scandals in American governmental history.
Wait, yeah. Okay, go!
And one of the main villains responsible for perpetrating this is a current sitting U.S. congressman in the House of Representatives. Yes, sir, the CCP infiltration has finally made its way up to Capitol Hill, resulting in her going from slightly above broke to a multi-millionaire in just under 1 year. And today, you're gonna learn exactly how she became involved in one of the most scandalous corruption, fraud, and possibly even espionage scandals in American history. Allegedly. So, put on them detective hats and 准备你的爆米花 because 真的是代志大条。Introducing Minnesota House Representative Ilhan Omar, just one of the many causes of the epic storm in Minnesota right now. Arguably one of the most extreme 极端左派小彩虹in Congress, who has been annoying and pissing people off inside and outside of Congress for a very long time. But most people thought she was just dumb and my finest fuck.
You've said that federal immigration agents actually pulled over your son on Saturday and asked him to prove his citizenship. The Department of Homeland Security says, and I'm quoting them, ICE has absolutely zero record of its officers or agents pulling over Congresswoman Omar's son. What do you say to that?
Well, if ICE is saying that they have documentation of every single person that they have pulled over in Minneapolis, we would love to see that record. So it is amazing that they're able to put out this statement saying definitely that they did not pull my son over when they haven't been able to answer anything else.
What I find jarring is that there's so many people willing to excuse the most reprehensible things that he said, that they agree with that they're willing to have monuments for him, that they want to create a day to honor him, and that they want to produce resolutions in the House of Congress honoring his life and legacy. But I am not going to sit here and be judged for not wanting to honor any legacy this man has left behind. That should be in the dustbin of history, and we should hopefully move on and forget the hate that he spewed every single day.
Always pretending to be on the moral high ground and playing the victim. It's all part of the Xiao Cai Hong SOP. But just after a few years in Congress, she eventually started to show her true colors.
Tonight, Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar defiant.
And my leadership and voice will not be diminished if I am not on this committee for one term.
After Republicans took the dramatic step, voting to remove her from the Foreign Affairs Committee. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy says it's in response to Omar's past comments, which both Republicans and Democrats have condemned as anti-Semitic, including saying support for Israel was, quote, all about the Benjamins, baby, and that Israel, quote, hypnotized the world.
When it comes to foreign affairs, especially the responsibility of that position around the world with the comments that you make, she shouldn't serve there.
So, an African Somali immigrant said some racist shit in Congress and then got kicked off the Foreign Affairs Committee by Republicans and Democrats.
That's impressive. That's really good. I mean, I'm very impressed by that.
Homegirl is really an overachiever. 真的很屌欸. Because you, a 外国人 on the Foreign Affairs Committee, only have one job. 跟其他的外国人好好沟通跟好好相处. And you can't even do that right. Make it make sense. And then, just last week, she got in big trouble again.
What your response is to the Oversight Committee launching an investigation into your net worth, you and your husband's net worth. They're claiming that it's risen rapidly. What's your response to what they're saying?
Reports show no records that Omar's husband, his business partner, or their investment firm are registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission as investment advisors.
Here's what we know. She went from zero to anywhere between $6 and $30 million in a year. Now, why is that relevant? First of all, I don't know many people that go from 0 to 30 without having a legitimate business.
You're in trouble now.
所以她不是很烦而已，她不是双标而已，她不是 gay bi 而已。She's also corrupt as fuck, allegedly.
It's true.
And if the DOJ pulls out receipts, this will be one of the biggest fraud scandals in American governmental history. Because ever since she stepped into office just 6 years ago, a lot of shit has gone missing.
And turn our attention to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar's role in the massive Minnesota fraud scandal. In case you're not already aware, Omar sponsored the bill in which Congress initially created the federal Meals Act program that's directly linked to her state's enormous Feeding Our Future welfare scheme. Omar now says she has no regrets at all for pushing the measure on Capitol Hill, that it has nothing to do whatsoever with what's going on in her state. The Congresswoman's bill, introduced right at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, was designed to modify the federal government's food and nutrition programs to allow certain waivers regarding school meals during that critical time. Now, since that, her home state community and district have all become ground zero for taking advantage of that measure, ultimately resulting in our nation's single largest COVID-era fraud scheme.
So, the very person who kicked off this fraud, the one who convinced Congress to sponsor the bill that perpetuated the fraud, was Ilhan Omar. And it also turns out that the convicted fraudsters donated to her re-election campaign.
但是说呢，在政府里面 corruption 算是正常啊，每一位政府人都有一点点 corruption 啊，那不算代志大条，那算是正常吧。
Yep, I was thinking the same thing. And then I started doing a little digging. And wakari kokshide. Every time you start digging through a pile of shit, waiting for you at the bottom is Xi Jinping.
And we also know from some of these new documents that we've obtained, there's more than $1 million, at least in this one case file, that were wire transferred to China. And that was not the final destination. But if you need that information from China, you're going to have to ask Beijing for it. And they're not exactly willing to give up that information.
During the search of individual AF's residents, agents recovered receipts for more than $800,000 in international wire transfers to China from Empire Cuisine and Market and related entities. Bank records show that all of the money sent to China was traceable to Federal Child Nutrition Program funds. Source of wire: Empire Cuisine and Market LLC beneficiary. Location: 青岛赛富科轮胎有限公司, 青岛. Source of wire: Old National Bank Minneapolis from Empire Cuisine and Market Inc. Beneficiary location: China Construction Bank, 哈尔滨市.
So that means Omar must have a link to China, right? But after doing some research, it seems like she hasn't even been to China before. I couldn't even find photos of her with any Chinese officials. But the thing is, if you want to do some dirty shit, you don't do it with your own hand. So that's when I started looking at her husband. Now this is Rose Lake Capital, an investment firm owned and operated by Omar's husband, Tim Minette. Now this site is so clean, seems like there's only one page and no mention or evidence of China here. But I don't believe it, because just like our good friend the Hong Kongers say,
don't trust China, China is asshole.
So I used the Internet Wayback Machine and changed the date to right when their assets jumped to $30 million. And this is where things get really interesting. Suddenly, the older version of their page was filled with lots of people. You have Tim Minette, the co-founder, and her husband, along with Alex Hoffman and Will and some other partners. So the question is, why immediately after their assets jumped up did they scrub all these people from their website? After all, these people are all integral parts to their team.
Some f***ery's going on.
Now, out of all the people on that website, there was one guy who really caught my attention. Next to his name was a title of ambassador. So I did some more digging. Turns out this guy was a former United States Senator and the ambassador to China for 4 years under the Obama administration. And guess where he spent the majority of his time? The same city that is the official sister city to Minneapolis, where all the anti-ICE shit is going down right now. And also the city where $1 million of that fraud was traced back to. Harbin.
I don't understand!
So, allow me to do what many politicians cannot and make things crystal clear. Transparency. 1. Omar pushed the Mills bill to Congress and got money to sponsor it. 2. That same bill created the Feed Our Future program, and that program created the fraud. 3. A significant portion of that fraud money went directly to Harbin, China. 4. Omar's husband's company went from $42 in net worth to $30 million in just 1 year. And last but not least, number 5, the ambassador to Harbin is on the website of Omar's company, and they completely scrubbed it.
Guilty! That nigga is guilty!
但是说呢，这种诈骗是正常吧，也不算代志大条啦。
No, motherfucker. At least $1 million or more of that fraud money went to China. But $30 million of that fraud money went to Omar's husband's company. Allegedly.
It's true.
So I kept digging even deeper. It turns out, from the first day Omar was elected to Congress, every single bill proposed against China, she voted no. Like the Stop CCP Act, whose goal is in the fucking name, to stop the CCP from doing some spy and war shit to America. And she voted no. Her excuse?
In so much of our foreign policy, we rely on muscle memory and a limited toolkit to decide the best course of action as we engage in countries. Too often, sanctioning regimes becomes ill-considered and incoherent and counterproductive. It's important for us to have, I think, a way that we look at to see what the desired goal in our interactions are and think about, in worst-case scenarios, will it hurt the people that we are actually trying to help?
But it didn't stop there. When the NDAA, which was introduced to give Taiwan $10 billion in aid during the most crucial period in Taiwan's defense history against the CCP, what did Ilhan Omar say?
It is unconscionable to spend a record-breaking amount on our defense budget, while thousands of Minnesotans in my district struggle to make ends meet. Our spending priorities should reflect our values. It is not moral to spend more money on a Pentagon budget than we spend on priorities that impact the daily lives of my constituents. Not only does this legislation further fund endless wars, but it continues to harm our reputation around the world. Let's be clear, Spending this much money on Pentagon bloat does not make us safer. We can focus our energy on critical efforts. For these reasons, I oppose this bill.
So, from what we know so far is that several $1 million from the fraud went back to Harbin, China, and the US government can investigate the black hole of finance there. And Omar and her husband's finances jumped from a couple of $1,000 to $30 million almost immediately after she voted against the anti-CCP and pro-Taiwan bill. Now, maybe 我想太多, but this sounds like bribery of a foreign agent, corruption, and maybe even espionage.
That nigga is guilty!
But why would it be espionage? Well, you need to remember, she is a Democratic congresswoman serving in the House of Representatives for the great state of Minnesota. She, along with the governor Tim Walz, are supposed to know everything that is going on in their own backyard. And then this happened.
Big stuff in Minnesota, but it's not just Minnesota. It's all over the country. You mentioned the CCP secret police station in New York. There is actually an organization that does a lot of the same things that this secret police station. You mentioned these overseas Chinese service centers, OCSC. They were listed on a bunch of CCP websites alongside the New York secret police station. So we started digging into it. And the more we looked, the more we found connections to Tim Walz. There's a principal of this OCSC. His name's Dr. Bingwen Yan. He went to China and got training by the Ministry of Public Security on how to be a security liaison officer, a consular protection liaison officer. And by the way, the Ministry of Public Security, that's like China's FBI. That is the agency that runs the secret police stations in America. And this guy, he was a professor at the University of Minnesota. He was at the fundraisers for...
So, from the governor who has a very sketchy 30-year connection to China, to the CCP-sponsored protests, to the congresswoman who took CCP money, allegedly, to the CCP police station operating right under their noses. Minnesota is not a United States of America. It's a goddamn province of China.
You're goddamn right.
And right now, the DOJ is actively investigating Ilhan Omar for fraud. And hey, if an Olan Pepe YouTubing in his underwear can find this information in just a few hours, imagine what all 117,000 employees of the Justice Department can do in just a few days. Imagine what they will find. I'm willing to bet it's a lot more than just 1 or 2 congressmen. But until then, nearly 1,000 of our recent viewers happen to be from Minnesota. So let me leave you guys with this message.
Run! Run!
So I'm Somali. To me, being Somali isn't just eating bananas with rice. It's like a cultural fusion. It's kind of like the bananas and rice.